Hello all, welcome to Mysterious Knowledge Texts, the Illuminati formula used to create an undetectable mind control slave part 3. Please like and subscribe. John Gittinger designed the PA, Personality Assessment System. This is an extraordinary method to evaluate human behavior and predict their future behavior. As far as we know, most of the PA is still classified secret. The PA is based on the ability to differentiate different types of people. There are three major differentiations, or dimensions. They are called the EI dimension, the RF dimension, and the AU dimension. People are born with their original placement within each of these three spectrums. In other words, there are three axes that can be graphed to describe a baby's personality. The baby might be graphed dash, I, internalizer, F, flexible, and A, role adaptive. If the baby were graphed this way, i.e., IFA, then the programmers would automatically know this child's mind will become a social or religious reformer. The child's programming charts would then be labeled some suitable occupations such as environmental activist, Pentecostal church reformer, consumer advocate, or activist against narcotics. The programming for that child then would follow 6-month goals to develop that mind-controlled slave into one of the best in that occupation. In fact, one of the co-authors of this book, Fritz, is indeed IFA. Which helps explain why he is trying to reform society and religion with this book. While it took Fritz many years to find his correct niche in life, programmed multiples are steered in the correct direction very early in life with all the breaks and all the money needed from the network to open opportunities. There are three possibilities for the child in regards to his original personality components. He can express the component, or suppress or repress it. As the child goes through life, he has two periods within which he can change, suppress or repress, his behavior/personality. In the PA, the first period is called compensation and the second is called modification. The amount of punishment for a personality trait and pressure to change from others will determine the amount of change which the child's mind will perform on its original personality. The activity level of a person at each point in their life is also measured. The intensity of each of the scores is also rated. The actual PA system is far more detailed than the example above, but it serves to give a simplified idea of how it works. The essential dynamics of an entire personality can be written in a short code which might be written, for example, 12, EUCFCU plus A plus U plus U, H plus. However, even that code is shortened. EUC can be written simply I. The basic three dimensions to personality provide 8 basic types. However, the PA allows for 6 basic positions in each of these 8 basic types, which yields 216 discrete basic types. Next, the person can change their predisposed primitive personality initially 5 different ways, and this then gives 30, superscript 3 or 27,000 different types. The second change can be done on 4 types of modification, which makes for 1,728,000 types. Then the programmers can factor in activity level, their normal level, intelligence base, age, sex, and education, and life experiences. In other words, what appears to be simple has a high degree of calibration to it. The person who was best with the PA was its brainchild, Gittinger himself. His intuition along with his PA system, gave him an uncanny idea of how a person's mind works now, and how it would work in the future. He sadistically reveled in putting his skill to use programming children. The actual assessment codes that have appeared on programming assessment charts, which the Monarch child assessment teams have used to evaluate, describe, and assess a child to be programmed, follow the standard symbols created for PA. Some about Gittinger's work has escaped the secrecy of the intelligence agencies. Concerning the Gittinger Personality Assessment System, see an Introduction to the Personality Assessment System by John Wynne and John Gittinger, Journal of Community Psychology Monograph Supplement No. 38. Rutland, Vermont, Clinical Psychology Publishing Co., Inc. 1973. See also the Rolling Stone magazine article, July 18, 1974, the CIA won't go public. Because so little is known about the PA test, it needs to be explained some. Observations in relation to the Wechsler intelligence test provided the initial ideas behind the PA. The digit span subtest of the Wechsler intelligence test, which rates the ability to remember numbers, forms the basic test used for the EI dimension. What Gittinger discovered was that short-order cooks had good number memory, which equals internalizer personality, or I. A high digit span in any person tells much about them. People who don't separate themselves well from their environment are externalizers, equals E. The I personality was a good baby. The E type, who prefers doing to thinking, is a too curious baby, who will make demands. I's would often be pressured to become more outgoing, and E's are often pressured by parents to be more self-sufficient, and to progress from crawling, which they like, to learn to walk. Pure internalizers become more withdrawn after several drinks, and uncompensated E's are more likely to become sloppy drunks, garrulous. Based on the EI dimension, predictions can also be made for how LSD will affect a person. This is the EI dimension. The block design subtest shows whether a person is a regulated, R, or a flexible, F, person. This is the RF dimension. The regulated person had no trouble learning by rote but didn't understand what he learned. The flexible person, on the other hand, had to understand something before he learned it. Our children could learn to play the piano easily, but the great concert piano players were F children who had persevered to master what they considered drudgery. The third dimension is the role adaptive, A, or a role uniform, U, person. A could be defined as charisma, while people tend to ignore the U. The CIA has 40 patterns that a skilled observer looks for, and these then are related to the PA and Wechsler subtests. Illuminati mothers of darkness alters trained in observation chart what they see a child do. A child's behavior with certain toys, certain hand responses, and certain social responses can be observed and used to assess how this child would score on the PA test. E.g., electroencephalogram patterns correlate to the PA digit span test. This allowed them to use the EEG patterns to overcome cultural bias in the test. It also gave the Monarch programmers the perfect tool to assess small children before they have verbal skills. David R. Saunders, at the University of Col. working with the CIA, wrote a paper in 1961 showing the connection between alpha waves and digit span. In 1960, Mundy Castle wrote about the connections between EEG printouts and Wechsler-Bellevue test variables. Here is the tip of the iceberg that EEGs were being used to determine pre-verbal personality in children. And Salvatore et al. Wrote at the Massachusetts Mental Health Center, Boston, Mass., clear back in 1954 about the predictive potential of Gittinger's theory in an unpublished research paper. The Massachusetts Mental Health Center was an early participant in all this. The child's guardians must teach the small victim obedience. They must teach the child to keep its eyes open and to hold still. These skills are important, because the child will be subjected to the EEGs in vast amounts. The hospital equipment would be something like an 11-channel Grass EEG machine where 11 electrodes are placed on the child's head, and brain wave patterns are printed out charting such things as background, variability, discharges, background suppress ions, sharp waves, etc. The electrodes will have designations such as T3, T4, etc. In special programming sites, a machine with electrodes will be hooked up to the child's head for repeated tests. The newer machines accommodate up to 30.5 diameter pads, electrodes, which are attached with electrode adhesive tape or small needled ends to the child's scalp. The child's hair will be parted in an area, and the electrodes will be hooked to the skull. The attendant will tell the child, "Don't move. Keep your eyes open. Look at this point. Don't blink. Don't move your body." Then this procedure will be repeated for 45 minutes to an hour. Eventually hundreds of readout from electrodes clipped to the skull of the child will chart the brain waves of the child. From these brain waves, the programmers can determine what type of personality the child has. This personality assessment criteria and ability is one of the guarded secrets of the programming. Should unexpected behavior crop up, the slave may be hauled in for more EEGs. The PA tests would reveal to Gettinger what a person's weaknesses were. The PA shows what a person wants. And these are called the soft spots of a person's personality. Also, the PA shows mental weaknesses, on where a person will be instable and can be broken down. Certain types of stresses will have a cumulative effect of hurting a person. A stress-producing campaign is run against CIA targets, and by doing this they can neutralize a potential enemy. This information collected from children who are potential victims for the Monarch programming, is essential for knowing how to structure that child's programming. For instance, IFU children often are autistic, IRU are schizophrenic children, and IR, or if are fantasy prone. It will be further explained shortly how this aids programming. An internalizer personality would be important deep inside an alter system, while an externalizer would be useful for a front personality. Internalizers are predisposed to the production of mental fantasy. By knowing what the child was, the programmers know what they already have, and what they must add or build into the thinking of the alters they will create. Likewise, some alters need to be R and some F. And some need to be A and some U. Regulated, R, personalities like to have narrow limitations on their activity. This makes them suitable for programming. The Rs readily accept authority, and will not try to step out of the range of their habits. The R has a marked ability to learn without understanding. They easily learn material by rote, because they do not need to understand it before they will learn it. This is another asset they have that the programmers like. The programmers may or may not want an A role adaptive personality. A future country singer needs charisma - a future computer programmer doesn't. Without being able to finally determine what is there, the programming could not be fine-tuned. If the child is good in math, it will have its programming script steered in that direction. If it has artistic brainwaves, then the programmer will use artwork in programming. The artwork of the European artist M.C. Escher is exceptionally well suited for programming purposes. For instance, in his 1947 drawing Another World, the rear plane in the center serves as a wall in relation to the horizon, a floor in connection with the view through the top opening, and a ceiling in regards to the view up towards the starry sky. Reversals, mirror images, illusion, and many other qualities appear in Escher's artwork, which make all 76 or more of his major works excellent for programming. The use of these kinds of elements will explained later. 5 children, each given the same Alice in Wonderland script, will each use the script differently during programming. The programmer takes the child's own creativity and works with that unique creativity. The child must create the images itself if the programming is to hold. It won't work if the images are someone else's. The child organizes its internal world to suit his/her own experiences, such as castles, boxes, rooms, and doll houses. The PA-type testing will continue during the early years of the slave's life to make sure the programming has not driven the child crazy or psycho. The child will move down the script decided for it for its whole life, based on these early tests. More about how this works later. The EEG tests run frequently on children to be programmed also show brain tumors, and medical problems beside just the brainwave patterns. The PA tests can show how easy a person can be hypnotized. If the testing by the EEGs doesn't reveal a child who can be easily hypnotized, they will be rejected for programming, even though modern drugs and extreme torture in some cases will be applied to salvage children they really think they need to program but are clearly not easily hypnotizable. EEGs can also be used to see what state of consciousness the brain is in. The Monarch programming is based on structuring MPD alter systems, which is covered in Chapter 7. The success of this structuring, its excellent fine-tuning, comes from the initial testing, which means programs are properly built on whatever foundation the mind has. The CIA Front Human Ecology Society tested the PA In 1962, the CIA moved Gittinger's base of operations to another CIA front on Connecticut Ave. Washington, D.C. called Psychological Assessment Associates. Because Gittinger believed genetic-based differences exist in people, which is one of the bases for the Monarch programming, his work was not accepted by mainstream psychology. In 1974, Gittinger described the PA system, the Personality Assessment System, PA. A. Indicates the kinds of internal and external cues to which the individual is most likely to respond. B. Suggests the types of stimuli that are most likely to produce behavioral change. C. Provides an understanding of the intra- and impersonal environments in which a person is most likely to function efficiently, and D. Offers insight into what constitutes stress and predicts probable behavioral response to such stress, including maladjustments, should they occur. In the area of experience, the PA offers a method for obtaining specific clues to personality structure and functioning. Thus, the PA A. allows for direct inferences concerning an individual's primary response style. B. Suggests the quality of the compensations and modifications he has achieved in response to social and environmental pressures. C. Provides an understanding of personality development in terms of the interaction of primary structure, environmental pressures, and adaptive tendencies. D. Offers a procedure for evaluating the surface or contact personality developed over time, and E. Makes possible the assessment of the fundamental discrepancies between the surface personality and the underlying personality structure discrepancies that typically produce tension, conflict, and anxiety. Wynne, John F. and John W. Gittinger. Journal of Community Psychology Monograph Supplement No. 38. Rutland, Vermont, Clinical Psychology Publishing Co., Inc. 1973, p. 99. Wow. Gittinger's description of PA is specifically the needs and goals that the programmers had when they initiate programming the personality splits in tiny 18-month-old children. People associated with the following listed organizations may assist the network to use their child for trauma-based programming. Children from families where one or both parents belong to the following organizations are often routinely sent off in early childhood for trauma-based mind control. We are now in third and fourth generations of people who are programmed multiples. And even into deeper generations in some Illuminati bloodlines. What can't be covered here is the enormous secret drama involved in Mariah finding and implementing control over parents via prescribed or illegal drugs, fear, blackmail, etc. So that they will assist them in getting the children programmed. If the motherly instinct is too strong, the mom may be prescribed tranquilizers, so that there is a stable house for the child's front alters to grow up in. Unreliable non-multiple fathers are debriefed by Ilium, multiples who debrief and then erase their memories of what is happening to their children. Parents may have only a limited view. D. Organizations practicing trauma-based mind control, these groups form what insiders call the network. They are the backbone of what is known as the New World Order. Air Force intelligence, Army intelligence, such as CIC, Atomic Energy Commission, Boeing, British intelligence, IN. MI6, MI5, and the Tavistock Institute, Bureau of Narcotics, Bureau of Prisons, Catholic Church, including Jesuits, Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, aka Agency, Company, Langley, Charismatic Movement, Church of Satan, Church of Scientology, Service Club 12 and Club 41, Country Music Industry, Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, Freemasonry, ESP. The Palladium Rite, 3 degree and above degrees, Quechu or Coronati Lodge, SRIA, and other Masonic-affiliated organizations, Japan German Intelligence, Shabak, GHG Hollywood, the House of Saud in Saudi Arabia, which has unprogrammed slaves too. The Illuminati, also known as the Circle, Mariah Conquering Wind, Gnostics, Luciferians etc. At all levels is involved in trauma-based mind control as perpetrators and victims, including